also for waking up this time on time.
Well, I got the face for the radio,
All right. And then across from me in the Hollywood Squares here, we've got Earl Burton from Tampa, Florida. Burl's a Butler University graduate, political science, very opinionated man on Facebook, social media, big sports fan. Nice to have you with us, Earl Burton.
Good to be with you here, Nolan. Looking forward to a fun discussion at the minimum, and I can tell you myself, let's get going with this season. The Bucs are ready. Hopefully we're ready.
All right. Well, the Bucs are going to be a fun team to talk about. We'll be getting to that. That's all the teams in this division, certainly. And the team that a lot of people are projecting to be in the cellar, but maybe not so, we have Ben Bason from lives in Atlanta now, enemy territory for him, but is from Carolina, went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, graduate, went out to all the basketball games back in the Dean Smith era, and been to many Panthers games. He's our Carolina Panthers expert. Nice to have you with us, Bart.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Nolan. Looking forward to discussing this. We have a very interesting team in Carolina this year. Interesting is usually what you say when you plan on winning 5 or less games. Well, so we're very interesting this year. A lot of young talent coming in, brand new coaching staff, no real preseason to gel. So we have our challenges in Carolina this year.
Excellent. Well, it's going to be an interesting division for sure. There's the teams behind me now. Let's start in alphabetical order, get right to it. By the way, if you're watching us on Facebook Live right now, I'll flip this over and check for questions. The last couple of shows, we had questions from viewers, and I try to take those when we can. Also, this is the second of 8 shows. We're breaking down every single division in the NFL this season. This is the second of 8 shows doing the NFC South. So let's get right to it with the Atlanta Falcons, a team that was 2 or 3 seasons removed from the Super Bowl with Dan Quinn as head coach. Matt Ryan, of course, still under center, I think entering his 13th season. A team that started out 1-8 last season, and then down the stretch they played some pretty good football, and he's finished with a 7-9 record. I'm going to get to the Atlanta Falcons here in a second. Let me look at their projected win total, which is 7.5. You'll see it right there. Atlanta Falcons, 7.5 wins, jaded slightly to the under. Gentlemen, which of you wants to take the Atlanta Falcons first?
I'll start with this as the Saints fan, them being the hated rival. I actually like Atlanta a good bit this year. I can't believe Dan Quinn survived after the 1-8 start last year, like you mentioned. But down the stretch, not just did they win, Nolan, they won in New Orleans and at San Francisco, 2 of the best teams in the NFC. And I think in this year with the COVID challenges, the continuity in Atlanta's organization with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Thomas Dimitroff, Dan Quinn keeping the organization together, I think they're going to be a little better than people think, and that organizational stability could benefit them.
All right.
Well, the thing about it is, though, they really just kind of shifted the deck chairs around. I mean, they got rid of Freeman at running back and bring in Todd Gurley, who is busted up beyond recognition right now. Past 2 seasons, he hasn't been running the ball as effectively as he did back during their Super Bowl run. So why have they brought him in? Sure, they've still got Julio Jones and Ripley, and Ryan may still be able to get the ball to them, but they still don't have a running game that they once had.
Well, and I'll tell you this, what I think about it is it's a tale of 2 seasons last season for them. They started off so poorly, but then halfway through the season, in an effort, I think, to save his job, Dan Quinn stopped calling defense and handed it off to Raheem Morris. Huge timing move for him, because that's whenever they really kicked it into gear and started winning football games. So it may not be as much as the pieces shifting in and out as much as just a general coaching mindset change.
All right, let's get to break down the Falcons a little further. That is a horrible defense, gentlemen. And
yes.
Statistically, yardage, points allowed, near the bottom of every defensive category in the NFL. And by the way, there's some bad defenses in this division, frankly. 2 of the worst, actually, statistically last year. I don't know how they revamp. You've got an older team, Gurley coming in as running back. I'm not sure that's a real game changer for them. Really an unproven head coach, because Mike Shanahan is now gone to San Francisco. He was the offensive coordinator during their Super Bowl run. So I'm trying to figure out where the parts are that are going to make this team really that's going to keep them out of the cellar. Ben, go back and address the defense and some of the things I've said there.
Well, one of the biggest problems with Atlanta's defense, granted, the defense is certainly not great. I'm not going to sugarcoat that it is, but they've had their injury luck the last 2 years has been among the worst in football. I remember they had 7 starters out for almost for the year, about week 4, I believe, 2 years ago. Last year had a lot. The guy to watch on their defense that makes it go is Deion Jones, former LSU Tiger, from down here in South Louisiana. He can fly at the linebacker position, great in coverage, makes a lot of plays. When he's in there, I mean, they're not great, but they're at least a little more competent.
All right, just a second. Ben, I got to ask you, is that hurricane still going on down there? I
don't think so. I think the hurricane's finally gone, luckily, but, every day's a new and exciting adventure in South Louisiana, I can tell you that.
Okay, I wasn't sure about your camera there. It was getting shaky. I was afraid the storm was kicking off.
Okay, my bad. I didn't have the clip. I'm having to try to hold it as steady as I can. I apologize.
Okay. All right, Earl Burton, go ahead.
Well, you bring up the excellent point. I don't see where the Falcons made any improvements. I said it before, I'll say it again and continue to say it. The only hope that the Falcons have is that they can outscore their opponents. And sure, with Ryan at QB, you got Julio Jones and Calvin Ripley. Yeah, you can run up 35, 38 points a game. But if you're giving up 38, 41, you're not going to be doing that well. And Atlanta, quite honestly, I have to say, we haven't gotten to them yet, but Tampa Bay is going to be right up there with them as far as worst defense. I mean, as far as secondary goes, they're going to give up a lot of points too. They've got a decent, defensive line, but getting back to Atlanta, they've got to be able to stop somebody. And until you stop somebody, nobody's going to take you seriously.
I think one thing we can
be all about that pass rush. Go ahead.
There's going to be a lot of overs in the NFC South this
yeah.
a lot of overs in terms of scoring, high-scoring teams.
Correct. Yeah. The point of the injury bug is really big. They had a ton of injuries in the defense last year, a ton, and it was just one right after the other. And that's really the thing. They have to stay healthy. I mean, that's what everybody wants. Clearly, at the beginning of seasons, is you need to stay healthy, but they really have to. And I don't think their defense is as bad as it showed last season simply because of the injuries. I'm not saying they're good, but they're just not that bad.
To me, it comes down to the front four for them. Grady Jarrett's still an elite defensive tackle when he wants to be. Their defensive line dominated New Orleans and held them to 9 points in the Superdome and that win in November. It's all going to come down to that front four getting some heat because, as y'all said, their secondary, it looks pretty trashy.
All right, so final word here, gentlemen. Again, we're betting here. We're gambling on this. 7.5 wins. You've got to take a side, over or under. A 10-second runoff here. Give us your final thoughts on the Falcons 7.5. Ben?
Okay, I got them 9-7. I like them solidly over. I think the continuity is a big part of it because they're not changing too much in the offseason. And with Matt Ryan's veteran presence, I've got them 9-7 fighting for a wild card.
I'm going to go with I'm going to take the under on this one. I only see him maybe making 500, considering that they're going to be playing against the NFC Central and the AFC West as far as their off division schedule. There's some tough teams there, and I could see them easily going 6-10, 7-9. They could. And it could happen. They could make 8-8.
The way I see it, I feel like their basement is probably 7 wins, and their ceiling is probably about 9 wins. So a 7.5 number, that just on that analysis alone says you should probably take the over. It's not a real – I don't get the warm fuzzies saying I want over 7.5 wins with Atlanta because they have a way of breaking everybody's heart around Atlanta. I've witnessed it firsthand. So it's not a real strong, go get them. But if you're going to make me, 7.5 is an over bet for Atlanta.
I lean very slightly over on the team. I mean, almost everything went wrong for this team last season, and they somehow still scratched out 7 wins. You've got a lot of experience, and this is the league of the quarterback. Obviously, I think every skill position on this team is a first-round draft choice. I mean, there's clearly talented, certainly on the offense. So, yeah, if the defense can just step up at all, they'll scoot easily to 6 or 7 wins, and in a very tough division, they may get to 8-8. So I'll lean slightly over as well. Good analysis, gentlemen. Let's move on to Bart's team from Carolina there. Bart, you're going to field this one first. The Carolina Panthers. Go ahead, sir.
Like I said in the beginning, it's going to be an interesting season in Carolina. A lot of youth, a lot of brand new things. Brand new coach, Matt Rule, comes over from Baylor via Temple. He's had good stretches with both of those 2 teams, but now it's time to step up and get into the NFL and see if he can make it happen for us. We said so long to Cam Newton. For me, it's good riddance. I'm sick of it. He just wasn't the leader that I envisioned for my team anyway. I don't want to dwell on it. I've been around it long enough. But happy to have Teddy Bridgewater come in. Touchdown, Teddy. He's going to put some points on the board for us, though. Good pickups include Robbie Anderson. He has ties to Matt Rule back in his Temple days. So I don't know if that was just coincidence or if that was by design. But either way, it's nice to see that there's a little bit of a connection there. So maybe they'll have a little cohesion. We lost so many players. Greg Olsen now is a Seahawk. We lost Trey Turner, Gerald McCoy, Bruce Irvin, James Bradbury, Mario Addison, Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly. Let's not even forget that we're now missing the guts of our defense. It's going to be, as much as we just questioned Atlanta's defense, you guys are going to poke major holes in ours because we have a big problem on defense. Offensively, I think we can hang. I don't think we're as good as Atlanta's offense, but we'll be able to sling and put some points up on the board too. Clearly, we've got McCaffrey. He's exciting. He's the most exciting player in the NFL in my eyes. He can do it all. He's involved in what seems like 80% of every play. I'm not sure if he's thrown the ball yet, but look out, he might. It's a nice team to get behind for the long haul. This is definitely a long-term play to be a Panthers fan these days.
Very good. Earl?
Well, you really bring up a good point there, Bart. It is going to be a long-term play. I think what the Panthers have done is they've kind of said, okay, we're completely going back and starting from scratch. They got rid of Newton. They got rid of Ron Rivera. They, Kuechly retiring. Like you said, such a massive part of that defense. I mean, it's got to eviscerate them. Not having Kuechly around, it is so difficult to say that they're looking to win anything this year when basically they're really kind of looking at restructuring and building, around McCaffrey, as you said. I think he's going to have a tough year this year because he is going to be the focal point of any defense that goes up against the Panthers. And I'm talking, maybe not, just one guy. That may be double teaming and maybe even triple teaming him because I haven't seen anybody else on that team that is really going to step up and take some of the heat off of him. Definitely it's going to be a tough year for the Panther fans out there.
Ben Mintz.
I got some thoughts here because the Carolina stole Joe Brady. Did an unbelievable job leading LSU's offense, breaking every record to that national championship. Former assistant with the New Orleans Saints. They also get Teddy Bridgewater. So there's some serious Louisiana influence up there in Carolina. It's a big rebuild. They draft every draft pick they had last year they used on defense. Luke Kuechly being gone, monster loss. What a face for the organization. Derek Brown, their first-round pick out of Auburn, is a monster. I mean, he's going to be one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL the next 5 years. I strongly think he tore LSU up completely last year. Super impressive. It looks like a long rebuild. Big name to watch is DJ Moore at the wide receiver position. He stepped up and showed a lot of flashes last year. I know he's a first-round pick a couple of years ago. They do need him to step up to give McCaffrey some help. I'm feeling around, it's a rebuild, but they're a fun, exciting team. I think David Tepper is a smart owner. I like Matt Rule, Joe Brady combo. I like the long term, but this year could be a little rocky.
Yeah.
I'll mention about the Teddy Bridgewater move. Teddy Bridgewater, very underrated. They went 5-0 with the Saints last season. Then before that, he pretty good quarterback with the Minnesota Vikings as a youngster. I think he's 27 now, so he's still got well, in the NFL, he's got a big future ahead of him, but he's a veteran quarterback. So Bridgewater's mobility, he doesn't make mistakes. I think his touchdown interception ratio was 11-2 last season. Now he wasn't the guy who's going to throw for 450 yards. He's going to get the job done. And the problem I think with Bridgewater though is that his past is based on playing on two very, very good teams. With the Vikings coached by Mike Zimmer, and then certainly Sean Payton in New Orleans, maybe arguably the best team on paper in the NFL with the Saints the last 2 seasons. So he steps in behind one of the best offensive lines, the most talented wideouts, and I'll tell you what, they could put Ben Mintz back there at quarterback, and he's probably going to look pretty good. So nothing against you, Ben, but so Teddy Bridgewater's stats could be a little skewed here. Now we're going to see if he's really got leadership and talent. I'm not saying he doesn't, but I'm not sure that's enough to make this Carolina Panthers team anywhere close to even a contender in a tough division. Thoughts? Go back to Bart.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen what you've got up there too. Over under 5.5 wins. That's going to be tough. I mean, if you just look at their schedule line by line, I mean, even the schedule is stacked against them a little bit. Their bye week isn't until week 13. And it's a team like this, they need an earlier bye week than that just to be able to regroup and whatever. They're going to play some really tough games early. Week 1, they've got Las Vegas. They need to win that game just to get the good feeling, hey, we can win games, because then they're not going to win games for a little while because they're going to go on the road 3 of the next 4 weeks, and they're going to take a bunch of lumps. Getting north of 5.5 wins is going to be pretty difficult for this team, I think.
Ben, Earl?
Yeah, I got to agree with Bart there. It's going to be a long road for the Panthers this year. They've got to go, against 3 of the best offenses probably in football with the Falcons, the Saints, and the Bucks. 3 shotgun arms in the quarterbacks. A great running game with the Saints. It's just going to be tough for them to even win a division game. So you're starting out 0-6 there. It's going to. I've looked over their schedule. I'm trying to find where they could get us 6 wins at.
Keep looking.
It's just not there. It is just not there. Yeah, I see it going under 2.
My thoughts, I am curious to see, because Teddy Bridgewater's familiar with that Saints scheme. Joe Brady's going to be running a lot of the Saints playbook in Carolina, so I think that's a pretty good fit with offensive coordinator and quarterback combo. But as y'all said, this division's really tough. I think Atlanta's going to be pretty good. We obviously like the Saints and Bucs. Somebody's got to lose. I think it's going to be Carolina, but I've got them at 5-11, but I want to reiterate, I like the long-term structure of this organization. I think they're heading the right direction. They're just going to take lumps here.
Yeah, this is one of those where I'm willing to accept the bad season this season as long as you see positive signs going in the right direction. And that's what I think any Carolina Panther fan will take from this season is just look for the positives, because Lord knows we're going to see a lot of negatives. But it's just going to be growing pains, I hope. I mean, last year we started 5-3 and closed 0-8, and that just leaves such a sour taste. And not only the players that are left behind, but the fan base and everything. It's tough. We were 1-5 in the division. We split with the Bucs and lost to the Saints and Atlanta by averaging north of 20 a game in those 4 games. So we haven't been competitive in the division. It's just time to right the ship, and I think what we've got is ground zero, and we're going to work our way up from here.
Excellent analysis. Looks like all three of you agree under on 5.5 on the Carolina Panthers, and I slightly lean that direction. One thing that I think that you all three of you gentlemen made very persuasive point is that if you look at the other three franchises in this division, they're all pressured to win right now, especially Tampa Bay. You got a 43-year-old quarterback, Bruce Arians on the sidelines, a tight end, it's injury prone. The Saints, 42-year-old starting quarterback, and then Atlanta, a quarterback in his 13th or 14th season, and Quinn on the hot seat. All three of those franchises have to win right now this season. There's no pressure on the Carolina Panthers, and that may, as Earl has said, long-term serve them very, very well. So I think we're on the same page on that team. We're going to take a bit of a halftime here. That's why I went back to the logo here behind me. We're going to take some questions from people on Facebook. I'm Nolan Dalla, and you're watching Slapshot, brought to you by Spreads.com, also Pointspreads.com out of Canada. Please visit us there and check out the latest odds where you can bet on just about anything at Spreads.ca. I said com earlier, excuse me, I meant CA. So let's look at the questions that have come in from Facebook. We've got quite a few viewers, all this talent, and they come out of the woodwork to ask questions or maybe heckle us, gentlemen. We'll see. So let's see what the folks are saying. Let me just run down here. Dan Walsh is commenting from Atlanta. He's an Atlanta guy. He says DJ Moore is electric, and they will get him and CMC the ball. Any comment there about DJ Moore? I think one of you guys said that he was maybe one of the best in the league.
Yeah, I think he's just a rising star, and he showed a lot of flashes. He's a first-round pick out of Maryland a couple years ago. He really came on strong and was a bright spot on that team last year. And they need somebody. They need him to step up just to give him some balance to help McCaffrey, as I said. But I think he's going to do it. I think he's got a great future.
Well, you pointed it out there, Ben, that he showed flashes. That's just it. It was flashes. It wasn't consistent. True. And that's what you really want out of your star performers is consistency and constant and being there when you're called on. And that's something that Moore, kind of disappeared a couple times last year.
Well, guys, I did a fantasy football live draft last night, and DJ Moore was I took Mike Thomas with my first pick, but then DJ Moore was not far behind him. I agree. Yeah, I think he needs to be the pressure release valve that gets the pressure off of Christian McCaffrey. He needs to step up, and he needs to be the guy that can be thrown to in situations to get first downs and not rely on dinks and dunks and McCaffrey shaking 3 tackles to get 8 yards. It's important for DJ Moore to step up and realize he's a number one.
All right. And, Dan Walsh also mentioned that Ken O'Neill is finally healthy after being out the majority of the last 2 years as well. He's a playmaker that can really help the secondary. Good point there from viewer Dan Walsh. A couple of questions that are not really specific to the division, but we're at halftime here. We've got 2 more teams to look at in this division. These are not really related to the teams, but they're open questions for the experts here. I'll just throw it at you. Let's take politics out of this if we can. It's
please, let's do.
But for sure. But hear the question out. Colin Kaepernick is sitting on the sidelines. Has not been active in the NFL for, I think 3 seasons now. Any chance any of these teams or any team in the NFL picks him up? What's his future, if any, in the NFL? Where would you say that? How do you answer that question? Will he play again? And if so, what team? I'll give all 3 of you a shot at this. Who wants to take that one?
I'll jump up and take it. Colin Kaepernick, I always thought was a really great quarterback. He's the hybrid that we see that has become like Jackson with Baltimore and a couple of other quarterbacks in the league. He was the prototype. He was the first. The problem is, he hasn't played in 3 years. And I don't care how much you go out and run around on a field and throw patterns and do things with, in your shorts and T-shirt. It's not the same as being in the game. 3 years away from the actual pro football game, I have a hard time believing that he would just – is he one of the best 96 quarterbacks in the world? Yes, but he's not going to be able to jump right in there and be, somebody that you could depend on immediately. He would have to be, kind of slowly sagged in, and then maybe it would be something that would happen. But I would love to see him get the shot to prove me wrong, but I don't see it as being possible for Kaepernick to come back and join a team in the NFL right now.
He's played his last down, you're saying?
Yes, I think so.
All right.
It's unfortunate.
Anybody else want to take that one?
Yeah, I don't mind saying a couple quick words. I mean, from what I remember about him playing years ago, a lot of my friends and a lot of my social circle, they weren't really that impressed with him, and I was one of his defenders. I thought he was a great talent. One thing that he reminds me of the reason I wouldn't want him as my quarterback is, for me, I've watched Cam Newton zip footballs to receivers for years now, and he just doesn't know how to put touch on a ball. And I thought Kaepernick had a very similar throw in that regard. It was a lot of lasers and not a lot of a touchdown field. And that alone is why I wouldn't want him as my quarterback.
All right, good. Ben?
I do have a quick opinion on it. I think if he's going to resurface, it's as a backup to a team that uses a mobile quarterback situation like what Russell Wilson in Seattle or Lamar Jackson in Baltimore or Josh Allen in Buffalo. I think he could be a good backup for a team that relies on mobile quarterbacks and bootlegs and running the quarterback. He could be a decent backup for one of those, possibly if he's going to resurface. That's all I got.
All right, good. I've got one more comment here. Thanks for that comment, gentleman who's on the on Facebook here. We've got one more comment at halftime here. Then we'll move on to the other two teams. Asking about, well, let's see. I've lost the question here. I had a question up, and now it looks like it's disappeared. Somebody doesn't want their name read on the air, I guess. So I don't know what happened there. Sorry we lost you. I wanted to ask the question, but I don't remember what it was. I looked at it a few minutes ago. All right, let's move on, gentlemen, if we can. The wonders of live broadcasting here. Anyway, so let's move on to the New Orleans Saints. This has been Mint's team, my team also. Been to a lot of games in the Superdome, and love affair with the Saints for many, many years, back to when they were lovable losers. But now they've been stacked, but really have not played well in the playoffs the last few years. In fact, since their Super Bowl season, every year they've crashed and burned in the playoffs. On paper, this team's loaded, but boy, the clock is ticking now. It's win now or else. Ben Mintz, this is your team. You cover this team 5 days a week on your show, and it's all Saints. I know you could do a whole show on this, so try to keep it under, a couple of minutes here. Ben, go ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, you mentioned the playoff struggles have been an issue, but they're 37-11 in the last three regular seasons. 3 straight NFC South titles, 11-5, 13-3, 13-3. The organization's been really a model of consistency the last few years, and the continuity this offseason. I keep preaching that with COVID. Teams that have new coaches and new quarterbacks and new systems are going to be at a huge disadvantage to start the year. And the Saints have as much stability as anyone. Drew Brees being 42, certainly an issue. The big thing to me is getting Mike Thomas some help. Last year, the offense, it was efficient, but there was no explosiveness down the stretch. And that was because Alvin Kamara's high ankle sprain was a problem. Jared Cook took a while to figure the playbook out, but he emerged down the second half of the season. I love the Emmanuel Sanders signing because the Saints have had nothing since outside of Mike Thomas since they traded Brandon Cooks a couple of years ago. I think Emmanuel Sanders will be a great compliment to Mike Thomas. Cook continues to emerge. Kamara's going to be a little more healthy, and so they're going to have a little more balance to help Mike Thomas out. The defense has been great the last few years. I mean, the defense was, in 2014 through 16, one of the worst in NFL history on those 3, 7, and 9 teams. But, man, they've been killing the draft. And, You look at Marshawn Lattimore, one of the elite corners. People are really excited about Janoris Jenkins. Marcus Williams, a good safety. We'll see Malcolm Jenkins as a leader. They got a lot of talent in the secondary. D-line, Sheldon Rankins, maybe a year more healthy coming off the Achilles thing. Look for Marcus Davenport to hopefully emerge. The former first-round pick. Cam Jordan's top 3, top 4 defensive end in the NFL. So a ton to like about this team. Also, the offensive line looks excellent. So I feel good about the Saints this year. A lot to love.
Earl?
The thing is with the Saints, let's be honest, they've gotten screwed in the playoffs a few times. The big, and let's not rehash that though. They've gotten screwed. They've gotten screwed. It hasn't been that these are bad teams. These are great teams. They have done well. In fact, they probably should have been in the Super Bowl other than the Los Angeles Rams. But the thing is, they always did come up a little bit short, and they should have put people away. That's the one thing that you got to say about, for example, the Kansas City Chiefs last year. They didn't let up on people. They kept pounding and pounding and pounding, and then, when it was 49-7, they said, okay, maybe we can let you go here. I love, and Ben, you pointed it out well, picking up Emmanuel Sanders to give him another weapon. You've got Kamara in the backfield. I would like to see them use Cook more, but here's the thing. Where do you use him? I mean, you've got Breeze and Winston at quarterback. You want to use him, I guess, a little bit, maybe, like a wildcat, but as soon as he comes in, you know what he's going to be doing. So that's why, you can't do that. You don't want to, burn him up on, at wide receiver. You don't want to bust him up at running back. Cook is one of those guys that he's a Swiss Army knife.
Taysom Hill. You mean Taysom Hill, right?
Yeah, Jason, thank you. Yeah, Hill. He's a Swiss Army knife, but he hasn't got a usage, and that's an unfortunate thing. Still, other than that, this is a team that I see winning the division, quite honestly, and I see them winning it going away, 12-4, 13-3 even, I think. So I don't think that the Saints really have a whole lot to worry about this year, unless Breeze gets hurt. And this time around, you got Winston backing him up instead of Bridgewater.
All right. Well, I think the season for the Saints is going to get off to a flying start. And one of the points that was going to come out of my mouth is they have to make sure they protect Breeze. I don't know if that means not running as many 4 wide and 5 wide and making sure he's got an extra protector or something like that in certain situations that they might not have done otherwise, but they have to keep him up. I think they're going to get off to an incredible start, but there is a very critical part of their schedule that I will point out. They have the dreaded 3 in a row on the road late in the season. Weeks 12 through 14, they go at Denver, at Atlanta, at Philly. That's never really a good idea. Not that they're not better than Philly, but whenever you go on the road 3 straight times, there's that old betting philosophy. Always bet against the team that's playing their 3rd straight road game, or at least it's one I learned a long time ago. And then they go home to play Kansas City and Minnesota. So those are weeks 12 through 16. So coming down the stretch, they don't have any cupcake games. Now, having said that, week 17 is Carolina. So there's their cupcake right at the end of the season. But, I think they'll get into week 12 or beginning week 12 solidly, 8-9 wins. They're just going to have to make sure that they finish it off. And to finish it off, they need to make sure they have Breeze completely healthy, not dinged up.
I agree completely there with you, Bart. I see the Saints going 5-0 by the time they hit their bye week. I mean, they could conceivably be undefeated, by the time they're getting their bye, and probably wish that they wouldn't go on a bye.
They've done a great job reinvesting in that offensive line. Like you mentioned, how important it is to protect Breeze. Eric McCoy, 2nd-round pick last year. He was great as a rookie. And then they took Cesar Ruiz, 1st-round pick out of Michigan. By all accounts, he's going to start immediately. They're really excited about him. And so I think the O-line's going to hold up. I feel good about it.
Well, I'll throw some I'll play the contrarian here, not because I don't think the Saints are going to win the division, but simply because Every time everyone agrees on something, it seems like it always goes the other way. Number one, the Saints are a notoriously slow-starting team. They're a very bad September team, not just against the spread, but also just straight up. This team starts out slow, even at the Superdome. In fact, that the Superdome's advantage is not what it's been the last couple of years. I mean, they still score a ton of points, but in many cases, they've had to come back in the second half. How many rabbits can they keep pulling out of hats here? The other thing is that it's an intangible that's something to watch. Sometimes you can watch one game and watch the sidelines and watch what happens, and it should raise a red flag. Sean Payton was so badly outcoached in that Minnesota playoff game last season where Mike Zimmer's just ran circles around him. And Minnesota's not that talented a football team. For the Saints to lose that home game I think they had a bye, an off week. Minnesota had to go on the road again, and they whipped the Saints. And that really is a concern for me that I don't know if the Saints were just fat and happy and overlooked the Vikings or what, but I have seen Sean Payton outcoached a number of times, not often, but when he's outcoached by good coaches badly. I wonder how many coaches are going to look at that game film and say, here's how you shut down the New Orleans Saints. I've thrown a lot to you, Ben. What do you think about that?
Well, okay, my thoughts on that. Sean Payton's playoff performance has been a little questionable. It seems like the Saints have been so dominant regular seasons, but there have been, some really sketchy playoff decisions by him. Big part of that Vikings game was Larry Warford, who got destroyed by Everson Griffin at the line of scrimmage, and Breeze was under heat the whole game. They got dominated at the line of scrimmage, and that's what ultimately shut the offense down. So they got rid of Warford, and they drafted Cesar Ruiz first round of Michigan to hopefully fill that problem. It's my hope.
Any other thoughts, gentlemen?
I think you're looking at the division winner there in New Orleans, and like I said, I think they're going to run away with it because I think 11-5, 12-4 is probably going to be the winner of the division.
Well,
11-5 for the Saints. Go ahead.
There's every team has their ebb and flows, and then New Orleans been riding the top of this tidal wave for a long time, and eventually once it goes down, it will crash. Will it be this season? I don't know. I mean, I think it would take a bad thing like Breeze going down to make this season a real bad season for New Orleans. I just don't see how they don't win this division still. I mean, that's for me who just I'm not a Saints fan whatsoever, but I recognize who's good.
I think my thing, though, I do think the record regresses a little bit. I thought they overachieved. They won some really close games last year to go 13-3. Tampa and Atlanta, I think, are both going to be better this year. And y'all mentioned, that stretch, the schedule down the stretch is murder. I've got the Saints going 11-5 instead of 13-3, but I actually think they may be a better football team with the worse record than last year.
And that makes sense.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll give you one last intangible. Earl, you're going to take the next team here in a second, so be on the deck circle. I'll give you one intangible, though, on the Saints, that no team will be hurt more in the NFL by the COVID thing than the Saints, because that home field advantage is now without 80,000 rabid fans in the Superdome, and I've been in there. Ben, you've been in there many times.
Oh yeah,
and it is a home field advantage, and that's going to be neutralized. Now they're on par with the Falcons or the other teams in that division. So I think you lose maybe a game or lose certainly a step here or there because of that factor. So I'm not going to go under. By the way, this total should probably be 11. I don't see it. They're being 13-3 the last two seasons in a row. So I don't know why the total's so low here. I'm just saying I don't think it's an automatic. So let's go on to the final team. This is the one that's gotten all the attention, for looking at obviously the Tom Brady factor. We're going to be talking now about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Talk about a turnaround in personnel, coaching, everything. This team is now expected to win. It's been a doormat for a long time. I don't think they've made the playoffs since 2007, so it's been a 12 or 13 season dry spell.
Yes.
Earl Burton, you're our man in Tampa. Give us the rundown on the Tampa Bay Bucks.
I tell you, there's a lot of excitement in Tampa. You know, Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski coming in. Everybody's saying the right things. You know, how the players are saying how Brady makes them want to play better. How the defense wants to stop Brady when practice. Brady's saying that there's some great talent on the team, but there's a few questions that do arise, from my examination of it. What kind of a quarterback are the Buccaneers getting? Are we getting the Tom Brady of 6 Super Bowls? Or are we getting a 43-year-old guy who's finally looking to get his paydays after giving up so much money when he was with New England? I mean, Brady is getting paid some serious bucks to come in here and play for the Bucs. So, what kind of a quarterback, what are we getting? Does he still have that drive to maybe make it a 7th Super Bowl, because he is on a 2-year deal. He's got this year and next, and that probably will be it. Another question that I've got is there going to be a running game for the Buccaneers? Yeah, we've got a decent running back in Ronald Jones II, but we lost his 2 main backups from last year. Peyton Barber and Brashard Perriman have moved on, and now we've got Shady, LaShawn McCoy, who's been with 4 or 5 teams now. He's back. He's now with the Bucs, and another one that they've got, another running back we've got is Kashan Vaughn, who's a rookie out of Vanderbilt. Brady likes running backs who will catch the ball out of the backfield. Jones is not that. McCoy can do that, and they're hoping that Vaughn can do that. The other thing that I'm looking at is, can the O-line block for Brady? Part of Jameis Winston's problems in 2019 wasn't that he was a terrible quarterback, it's that he was constantly running for his life. He contributed a lot to his 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. When you're trying to stay one step ahead of a 300-pound defensive lineman, you're going to make a few mistakes. Finally, is the defense up to the challenge? They were the 30th passing defense in 2019. When you're in a division with Drew Brees, Teddy Bridgewater, and Matt Ryan, you better be able to stop somebody in a passing game. They've got a great defense against the run with Ndamukong Suh, Jason Pierre-Paul, Vita Vea is back and healthy. They've got a decent run defense. Is the defensive backfield going to be able to stop anybody? I mean, like I said, they were 30th last year in passing defense. And when you've got Brees, Bridgewater, and Ryan going against you, it's a good question as to, what you're going to be able to do there.
Excellent. Bart?
I think it's going to be an interesting season to watch Brady, because it's like you said, you don't know who you're going to get, and you're going to get 3 teams that are out. They're going to want to get to him. They're just, even our bad defense is going to want to get to him and sack him. They're going to want to put some licks on him, even if it's just a pride thing. But it's Tom Brady. He seems to have more than 9 lives. That guy. He's been fortunate time and time again. But he's stayed healthy. He's done the right things. I want to see if the system that he has down there fits his game. That's what I want to see. Will it fit?
You bring up a very good point there. Arians has always had a high-risk offense. Now, but last year, technically, Brady went down the field for passes over 20 yards completed 43% of the time. He had 7 TDs. Over 20 yards last year, which was his best since, I believe, was something like 2013. So, Brady, I don't think will have a problem slinging the ball under the Arians offense.
That's good.
I love that y'all bring that up because that's what's fascinating to me. Tom Brady, you think of him as a point guard at quarterback, distributing the football, getting it out so quick out of his hands after the snap. And Bruce Arians' offense is all about 8-step drops and vertical. You think about Carson Palmer and Jameis Winston and Andrew Luck and Roethlisberger pushing the ball down the field. And, Arians being a great coach, he's going to fit it around Brady's talents, I would think. But with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, the weapons are there. And on defense, I want to mention Devon White because he's former LSU Tiger, number 5 pick. Awesome middle linebacker, looking for him to continue to emerge. It just comes down to that secondary because I think the front seven and the run defense is going to be elite, but the secondary does look weak.
Yeah, another thing that I needed to bring up is the health of the receiving core. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Gronkowski, Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard, especially with the tight ends, you're talking about a very injury-prone group there. And Evans and Godwin also missed their share of time last year. So those guys are going to have to stay healthy if Brady's going to have some targets to throw at.
Well, I'm going to show my age with this next comment, but I remember back to the days when a fellow named Johnny Unitas suited up in San Diego his very sad final season. And I'm wondering, a 43-year-old quarterback going down to Tampa, is this, is he going to look as bad as Unitas did that final season? Now, it's a different game, a different era now, but it reminds me of that a little bit. What is he still doing in the league? What does he still have left to prove? Obviously, love of the game is a lot of it. The one thing that I worry about on this team, aside from the defense, which is just sickeningly bad, is the continuity. A brand new system. Byron Leftwich, remember, was the offensive coordinator. How is Byron Leftwich going to call plays and tell Brady essentially what to do? Can you imagine that scenario? I mean, I could see Tom. Hey, just hold the clipboard, son. Let me take the ball here. I mean, nothing against Byron Leftwich, but he was, at best, probably a slightly better than average quarterback. Bruce Arians, I think, has been a master head coach. Has always squeezed out a lot of talent from what he's had. He's never had a lot of talent, but always seems to get more out of the players in terms of production. But this is the complete opposite scenario, loaded with veterans. Players that have not played together yet, injury-prone, as Earl Burton noted earlier. And then all of a sudden, this team, I think, was 5.5 the last few seasons. I mean, projected win total. Now they're jumping up, and people are saying, they have to win maybe 9 or 10 games. So I'm thinking that the expectations on this team are just a little bit too high. I think if they had a young quarterback, grooming coming up through the ranks, I would like this team actually a lot better than Tom Brady under center. A final word to each of you on the projected win total, 9.5. Do you go over or under? Bart, why don't you start out, please?
For them, it's like I sort of analyze it, what I think. I think their basement is probably 8 wins, but their ceiling is 10, and same analysis before. If that's the case, 9.5 number, I'm going under. I think that there's just too many question marks for me to feel good saying this is 100% a double-digit win team. I don't get that from this team yet, but nobody has any idea what they're going to look like on the field. We really don't. This is all conjecture. We're just all thinking out loud. I think 8 wins, 9 wins will be easy for them to achieve. Can they get it to 10 or 11? I think that's the outlier. I think that'll be difficult for them.
Gentlemen, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. My thoughts on this team. First of all, I want to mention Todd Bowles as the defensive coordinator I love. I forgot to mention him. I thought him and Arians is one of the best defensive coordinator head coaching combos. I mean, they almost got Carson Palmer to the Super Bowl. That's pretty crazy. But as far as this year goes, Nolan, I'm looking for them to start out like 3-3 or 3-4 or 4-4, and everybody's going to be making a big deal about it. But it's because of the continuity thing. I think it's going to take a little while, but I think they're going to close the season on a heater. It's going to get to November, and Brady and Arians and Bowles are going to get this figured out. And we're going to be talking about Tampa at 3-4 or 4-4 in Week 8, and they're going to end up 9-7 or 10-6 as a wild card with a lot of momentum going into the playoffs is my prediction for the season.
Excellent. Good point.
I'm looking at the Bucks going 4-2 in the division. I see them, with wins over Carolina and going 1-1 against Atlanta and New Orleans. I've looked over the rest of their schedule, and I see 4 more wins, definite wins that I could say, okay, let's pencil that in. They got the Chargers at home. They go on the road against the Giants. They got the Vikings at home, and they go on the road against Detroit. That gets them to 8 wins. Now, those other 4 games are against, they got to go to Denver. They got to go to Chicago. They got Green Bay here at Tampa. They got to go to Vegas. They got to go to Kansas City. And they've got a Monday night game against the Rams at home. That might be the one that gets them to 9 wins, is the Rams game. Where do they get number 10 is the question. I don't see them going over 9-5. I see them at 9-7 comfortably. And 10-6, if they get maybe get a win on the road against Vegas, maybe take one on the road against Denver or Chicago. That may get them to that 10th win. But I like what Ben had to say about midseason. They'll be about 4-4, and then they'll win like 6-2 the rest of the way and be 10-6 and get in with a wild card.
What I'll say about that is, you're penciling in W's on the road. You better keep them in pencil. You better keep them in pencil, because those W's are definitely pencils.
Oh, yes, it's definitely pencils, especially going to Denver and Chicago.
All right, gentlemen, fun show. Terrific guest. I really enjoyed having you all on. I'll give you one more question here before we go. You're going to go around. We're going to go around the round table. Bart, you're going to start here in a minute. We'll ring around to go counterclockwise to Ben. And you're going to tell us how you can get in touch with you or follow you on Facebook or what have you, because it's a long season. We're going to do this again, I hope. And I'm sure people that are watching, maybe on YouTube, who knows, they may want to get your picks or what have you, but maybe offer you a job. Who knows? I could use a job here. And then what you're going to do is tell us that. And then finally, and in closing, give us your Super Bowl prediction. Who's going to play who, and who's going to be the Super Bowl champion, assuming we get to a Super Bowl next early February. Bart, you get to tee it off.
All right. Super Bowl prediction. Wow. I get 5 seconds to think about that one. That's good. I really like Kansas City as far as AFC teams go. I like Kansas City a lot. I know they were the darlings and all that last year. Mahomes has got a lot of hype or whatever, but I really like what they're doing out there. They're gonna get hurt a lot too with the whole no home field, with no fans in the stadium, because they have a tremendous home field advantage as well. One of the loudest stadiums in the league. As far as NFC goes, oh gosh, I mean, I could be, homer for this division and say New Orleans, because I'd be a hard time to not say them, but they just concern me with what we've already discussed, the lack of playoff production. Having said that, who do I think would be there in their place? I wouldn't pick against them. So for me, it would be New Orleans and Kansas City. And if they played, I think Kansas City would win.
Next. Earl?
Well, I am looking at the Super Bowl. God, let's hope we get there, first of all. But after that, I'm going to go with 2 teams in each conference. In the AFC, you definitely got to look at the top 2 teams from last year, Baltimore and Kansas City. I think Baltimore is going to be very hungry this year because they know they missed an opportunity last year. You also got to account for a little regression from once you've gotten to the pinnacle, gotten to the top. I think Kansas City might come back to the field a little bit simply because they've gotten the big prize. So, I think it's going to be Baltimore, Kansas City. In the NFC, I don't see how you can go against the Saints. I mean, New Orleans is strong front to back, great offense. It's going to be difficult to go against them at all with this. And then If you were going to go with somebody who might be, going out for one final swing at the prize, look at Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers worked miracles last year with very little support staff. If they can get the right situation, maybe get home field in the playoffs, have those teams coming into Green Bay rather than having to go somewhere else to play, don't count Rodgers out. It's somebody to look at. And, of course, you could, always go with the 49ers. But I'm going to go with New Orleans, Green Bay, and on the other side, Baltimore, Kansas City.
I'm actually going to surprise y'all as a Saints fan, but I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks out of the NFC. I love the Jamal Adams move to Seattle. I think that is a game changer for them, getting a safety back there with Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Pete Carroll, John Schneider. I think Seattle's going to be really, really good. I love the Jamal Adams move. I got Kansas City Chiefs and Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl, and I'm the co-host of Game Time on ESPN Baton Rouge from 6 to 8 p.m. Central. We talk sports gambling every day. Please follow me on Twitter at Ben Mintz 531. As Nolan will tell you, I'm not afraid to run my mouth and check that. So come on, join the fun.
It's been fun. Thanks, gentlemen. I don't have to give my pick until we've done all the shows. So I have kind of the button here for playing poker. I get to act last. I'm not going to give you my picks. I get to listen to all the experts on all 8 shows. Then I give you my picks at the end. So thank you very much. A great panel for the NFC South. Earl Burton, great to have you with us. Ben Mintz, as always. And Bart Bason, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Nolan Dalla with Spreads.ca and Pointspreads.ca. Check out the action there. Please come and make a bet or two, and let's have some fun. We'll see you tomorrow. We're going to be featuring the AFC North. We go from the NFC to the AFC, and we're going to talk about the AFC South tomorrow. We have a couple of guests on from Tennessee and from Indianapolis, so I'll leave a surprise as to who they are. So anyway, I'm Nolan Dalla for Slapshot. We'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.